Hey, it's Empress Rose here, and welcome to your reading. This is going to be a general reading. It could be on any topic, and it's for everybody. I'm thinking of calling them like "What's up" or "What's going on." I hear, four non-blondes in that. What's going on? Well, what's going on right now? Let's see. What do we need to know? What's the most important thing we need to know? I'm using the Crow Oracle deck to get us started here. Oh, this is really fascinating. We have freedom and alliance here, starting us off. The first thing that comes to mind is, freedom to go where you want, to leave the group, to head out on your own, to feel like it's like a prize you have received or you are receiving. It may involve, it's the freedom to move, the freedom to go where your heart desires. It's almost like, even though it's exactly the opposite of, it's reminding me of catching the bouquet at a wedding. And I don't know why, because that's like the symbolism there is that you're the next one to get married. Which, just at my age and stage doesn't sound fun. But I know a lot of people are like feeling like that's good and can do that without feeling like they're being told the answer to somebody all the time. So maybe it is about like you having freedom right now, like not having to answer to people, not having to stay where you're at. If you want to go, you can go. Reminded of that Cat Stevens song, because if you want to be free, and if you want to be me, be me. You can do what you want. The opportunities are. So not a lot of guidance, but just like a lot of reassurance that if you want to do something different or you want to go a different way, you've got sort of some promise here or some sort of like, it's yours. And is there possibly some leaving of people behind? Perhaps. Wow, lots of songs coming in here. Like, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. And wow, and they're all from like the 70s. That's gonna be Janis Joplin right there. So I was an infant and I'm not as old as all that, but those songs were old when I was young. Yeah, so some sort of receiving, but it's like a bouquet of freedom. It's like not necessarily, that's what it's more of, like a bouquet of like you've caught the bouquet. It's your turn to do something that you want to do, or name your price, or name your desire. And then we have alliance here. So on this one, I'm seeing sort of like a sense of like, well, I'm free to go. Ciao. Been nice knowing you, but I'm headed into a direction that I chose, that I wanted to go in. And then here we have alliance though. So we have like a joining forces with someone. It's like this cat is asking for food and this crow is asking the cat to ask for food. It's like someone, like both parties are going to get what they want here. And even the human gets to feel generous and altruistic and all of those lovely feelings that sort of interconnect humanity together. And is it an alliance? This card always confuses me because it's like, it's this like, why is this cat asking for food again? Like, it's like there's just like a lot of working together here, and this gets passed on to this one, and this one gets passed on to this one. And there's like, I feel like, is this actually like a mutually beneficial relationship? Is the crow taking the food from the cat? Is the cat like trying to tattle on the crow? Like something about the alliance. So you're either, well, we'll see what else happens here in this reading. We're just going to move on to the tarot portion of it. Maybe it is freedom within an alliance. Like, yeah, there's an alliance here, but there's a lot of stuff you could actually be doing. There's a lot of freedom within this agreement, or within this, yeah, what is it? There's also a quote from the Bible and the Quran, or the Torah and the Quran, of just like, you know, being held to account for all of the pleasure, all of the allowed pleasures that you did not allow yourself. So that's what this is reminding me of too, is that maybe perhaps within an alliance there's a lot more freedom, or within an agreement or a contract or something like that, there's a lot more freedom, and there's take advantage of those freedoms. You know, you may be tying yourself down more than you need to. All right. Overall, for the reading, 8 of Coins, we might be talking about a work situation, which makes sense with this alliance and this freedom. Like, you may actually be allowed more freedom within a certain agreement or within a certain contract. So 8 of Coins, work, you know, day in, day out work that sustains us, that pays our bills, keeps the lights on and the roof over our head. So more daily work. There's always a sense too here with this one of it's a personal expression does have some part of this. And something about in your nature, being in your nature, work that is suited to you. Past, present, inner landscape, what's at issue, environment, to-do list, possible outcome. Okay. In the recent past, we have the world. So something completed. A big, not just a chapter, it's usually a book. It's usually a pretty big section of your life, having completed that. It can be youth, it can be parenthood, it can be a job situation, it can be schooling. You might have finished your schooling completely. Lots of different things. But there's a sense of having completed something, finished a project. Finished the project, turned it in, got the grades back, boom, moving on to the next semester, you know, moving on to the next. There's nothing more to be done or said about that situation. It is absolutely complete. And complete is a really interesting word, because it can mean like it's done, or everything that you can get out of this situation, or everything to be learned from this situation. The situation is completed as in wholly done, or complete as in like whatever happened here, we're just moving on to the next thing. Like, these cookies did not turn out and we're just gonna, but the time for cookie making is done. So whether or not those cookies turned out doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, or in the, you know, we're just moving on to making the next thing on our list. So I'm getting both here. And this one also has like a sense of like things going on in the world around us that are much bigger than we are. And yeah, going on in the world, you know, the things going on in the world having an effect on us. This one has a sheltering aspect to it as well, which I think kind of startles me. It can also be like the completion of a year, a celebration of a cycle. It could be just the new year too. In the current situation, we have judgment here. This is interesting. We go from 21 to 20. Judgment are the grades coming back. Like maybe you completed the class and now you're getting the grades back, or maybe you completed the project and you're starting to maybe even understand what you just went through or what you just experienced. Like this whole experience is over now. You're free to go. And there's a sense of trying to understand what happened here. This whole experience, this whole circle completed, this whole year completed, this whole thing being done and over. So typically we're going to see this as, I see both of these as looking back, reflection, right? I'm almost seeing this as like reflecting in a mirror, or honestly, I see like these kids all being born and kind of looking back at where they came from. I know that's really strange, but that's what I'm here for. So looking back at where they came from, a sense of reflecting back on something that is complete and finished, done. And it's like it completed and it's finished, and now you're having sort of a respite afterwards of just like, what happened there? The post-mortem of, we had a big event in our lives, we had something huge come through, and now we're trying to understand what it all meant, what we can take going forward, what we can move, what are the useful things. And one of the things that's kind of strange is that we do is we get really terrible lessons out of things. Like a relationship doesn't work out, therefore, what we learned was just men suck. I mean, that's like the worst lesson you can take from that. Or so just being careful you're in sort of this lesson gathering mode here, or looking at where you've come from and analyzing it. So just be very careful that the messages you're receiving from that are useful and true and hopeful and actually helpful on your next cycle of what's going on. So there's a sense of assessment, I feel like, about looking back on the past and assessing what happened back there. Reflection. And then we have in your current, your hopes, your fears, your inner landscape. So we have completion and we have reflection, and then we have you worried about not being able to handle something, or of straining of something, or hopeful that you can handle a lot that's on your plate, which is interesting because so far we've just talked about completion, reflection. Judgment can also be something coming back from the past. So maybe you're juggling two things. This is really interesting because the top of this deck right here, which I'm going to use later, has exactly the same dry riverbed. And this one, and so it's just like sitting there next to it, and normally I read the back of the card. But I just find that really fascinating that these two are right next to each other here. This dry riverbed, and wondering about like, and there's this overwhelming ocean in the background, and wondering about like how you're going, this looks to me like fears about the future, about how you're going to deal with things when they come up, how you're going to maybe deal with ramifications of something that's already completed and over, how you're going to deal with the future, how you're going to juggle different things. Like you're waiting for something to happen, but your focus is on like whether you'll be able to handle what happens when it happens. Which is interesting because it's juxtaposed with this whole reflection on the past. And perhaps reflecting on the past is having you feel a little bit unsteady about things you're concerned about coming in the future, things that you're worried about. This is about work. So maybe you're worried about having too much work on your plate. Maybe some era of your life is over, and now you're very worried about what if you end up with two jobs? What if you have, too many projects. You're sort of evaluating and assessing, and maybe an opportunity from the past is coming in and you're not quite sure you can handle it, because overall we are talking about work. So it does look like a work project, sort of a post-mortem, or a job, and sort of like what's happened. There could be an opportunity coming back, but in this Two of Coins, I see your mind is a little bit tumultuous and a little bit worried about juggling too much, even though there's literally nothing in your riverbed right now. You're worried about there being too much. So maybe you can see too much coming in the distance, but you're concerned about something that is not yet here, about a state of events and affairs that you're not experiencing yet. You may have experienced similar things in the past, though, because we do have a riverbed. So that means the river at one point was strong enough to carve out its way through the landscape, and now it's been a little bit dry, and you're concerned about perhaps almost like, do you still have what it takes to deal with the situation when it comes up, or do you still have what it takes to juggle a lot of activity, since it's been so long since, with this dry riverbed here, the reality appears to be dry riverbed. In your mind, there's a concern about too much to handle. So this is fascinating. We have Three of Wands in reverse. That's what's at issue, and it's sitting right next to this Two of Coins. So what I find fascinating about that is that Three of Wands in reverse is lack of faith in the future, and Two of Coins I was definitely seeing as like not feeling confident that you can handle the river when it fills up the bed that you're standing on. And so there's a sense of like either not having faith in the future. You know what I could see is this tidal wave coming, and this guy's just playing in the dry riverbed. I don't know, it's been dry my whole life, so I don't really think that the river's coming. And then here comes this like massive tidal wave about to fill that up, and he's like just playing there because he doesn't see the future coming. He doesn't see it coming. So there could be a sense of really genuinely not being prepared, and worried, and with them next to each other, there's there's a new sense here of like not having so little faith in the future that you're just like sort of playing in the freeway in the middle of the freeway because you don't think cars actually travel there, when in fact there was just like an accident a little while back. Once that gets cleared, the cars are all going to come through, and you're like dawdling and goofing around right in the path there. So there is a sense of just either not trusting yourself in the future or not actually trusting that the future's on its way, which obviously the future is always on its way. So maybe having lost faith in something, maybe especially if you're like a entrepreneur or a contract worker or something like that. It may have gone a while since there was anything, and you're losing hope and are not sure even if something did come, if you would be able to handle it, or just have lost hope and are just goofing off because like, okay, no one's getting back to me. So in your environment, Six of Wands, so there's lots of like victory. There might be announcements of, this person winning, or this is happening. There's a lot of like victory going on in your environment, which is interesting because you're not having a lot of faith, and yet this could be triggering some jealousy, which is a normal emotion, uncomfortable, normal, best out in the open, just acknowledging it rather than doing a bunch of subconscious weirdo stuff to other people just because they're successful and you're not. But there could be like promotions in your environment, or other people getting contracts, or maybe who you contract with, they won a big contract or something like that. So you're seeing like success and victory, and really good energy around you in your environment. Your to-do list, Seven of Cups. Very carefully consider your options. Right, we've got these little pro-con debate teams here, and they're debating the merits of each item. There's one item that is a much more intuitive, good fit for you, but it's still important to do the pro-con list, and it's still important to look at the different details of each possibility. So Seven of Cups it's your to-do list, and it's taking an intellectual approach to matters of the heart or intuition. So this isn't like just ignore the details and follow your intuition and what feels right. This is definitely like write it all out, be very logical, use your intellect to really suss out. And this is about having options and trying to make a guess at what you're going to be happiest with. So trying to make a best guess about that. So looking at what bills you need to have covered, what pays, what doesn't pay, looking at all of that. In the end, we do go with our intuition and we do go with what makes us feel alive and makes us feel good. But this is fully engage with that intellectual process, fully engage with the spreadsheets, the pro-con lists, all of that, like really engage with that. It is going to help you sort things out. And then when you do make an intuitive decision, there's a lot of like solid ground that you're standing on. So not all decisions are like this, but this has to do with a work situation, which has to do with finances, which does have to do with a lot of concrete things that can be figured out and can be worked out. So this is just getting really clear about what you want, which can be an interesting process. I think one thing I would recommend, if you're looking for recommendations on how to get clear on that, I do recommend the pro-con lists and all of that, and then going with what you want once you thoroughly explore things intellectually. But another thing would be like writing as if you are 5 years in the future, and what you are enjoying about your life and what you're grateful that you did and the moves that you're grateful that you made. That can just help, even if there aren't any specifics, it can just help solidify what you actually want in a more intuitive way rather than sitting down, because that doesn't work for all of us. So really, like, and it sits right underneath this judgment card, which is about, having good judgment, understanding what has already happened, and what made us happy or didn't make us happy about that situation. This really does seem to be a work reading, though. Well, starting off with the 8 of coins as the underlying. So looking at like past work that we've had, past stuff that we've done, and trying to just sort of suss out, you might have a lot of options come towards you. They might be very confusing. And so really taking some sort of detailed intellectual consideration of what is going to make you happy. So then we have possible outcome, Ace of Wands. Something really inspires you. So I think that's just exactly what we're saying here is your job right now is to be very intellectual, be very smart, really know what your priorities are, what you want to do, be very smart about that. But in the end, go with your intuition and go with what you feel is going to make you happy. So really listening to your gut instinct at the end of the day. But that gut is also there to like suss stuff out. Like we actually like absorb nutrients through our intestines, right? So there is like a sense of absorbing like actual real information and stuff you actually need in this process, but at the end of the day, going with your intuition of just, okay, I understand what I'm giving up when I accept this situation. I understand what this one would probably bring me, and so just sussing out what's going to make you happy, but in the end going with your intuition and the thing that genuinely inspires you. But this is something that you're being told to do after you do some really good analysis. And it's interesting because it's like this 3 of Wands here is about not trusting the future. Wands being intuition, creativity, all of that, and the 3 being in the strongest place of trust in that, and seeing the results of your labor, if only in your mind's eye, but really being able to see that future. So it's in reverse here, and I feel like what we're doing is a very gentle movement of, okay, you're not really trusting your intuition, you're not really trusting the future right here. So let's then, since we're not here, we're not going to like ask you to do, a 180 on the freeway at 80 miles an hour. We're going to ask you to sort of take a very logical exit ramp off of sort of this lack of trust and actually really engage with it. Like, okay, I'm not in a very strong faith mode right here. So let's really engage with the nuts and bolts of this. Eventually, this does lead you back into faith and into trusting your intuition and into being able to choose that, because you're not really there right now. So I really like sort of this gentle arcing U-turn that happens at a little bit of a slower pace and indulges where you want to be right now, where the way you're going right now, the way you feel right now, sort of indulges that with analysis, assessment, all of that. And then in a very gentle way, it brings you back into your intuition and being able to act from that place. There's some kind of alliance. I don't see an alliance in these cards. That's what's interesting. This freedom to associate with who you want to associate with. Freedom to move forward. I can see these roses actually as being this wand, this intuition thing, and all of these people being in a very different state than you are, a very different place in their lives than you are. And you're free, you have a lot more freedom of movement and freedom, ending up with freedom to follow your intuition. All right, and then we have, for the final little piece, dream your dreams. Trust that the desires in your heart are placed there lovingly by the universe. You're meant to dream of what you dream. I love this idea of sort of the dry riverbed, the sort of disconnection from your own dream and vision, and this reaffirmation that you're meant to envision something else and to have faith in that. I really love that. Trust the desires in your heart are placed there lovingly by the universe. So you're going to get there, I think, in like trusting that. And I think that's what this Ace of Wands is. And I think it's a contradiction to the lack of trust in the desires of your heart. But looking into the heart space and really analyzing what you love. All right, well, I hope that was helpful for you. Thank you for joining me for this reading, and I hope you're having a good time out there. Ciao.